بسم الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So continuing with the Ulum al-Quran. So we have looked we were looking at the tafsir of al-Quran, yeah? The topic of tafsir al-Quran. And we looked at the tafsir of al-Quran through al-Quran first, yeah? And then what was next? Hadith. Very good. And then after that, the companions. And did we look at the Tabi'in yet? Did we mention?
We haven't started that yet.
Okay. So after the tafsir of Al-Quran by the Sahaba, the fourth is by the Tabi'in. Tabi'in. So Tabi'in are the people who followed in the footsteps of the companions. Taba'a, to follow. And Allah Ta'ala, He mentions in Surah At-Tawbah. So ayah number 100 in Surah At-Tawbah, وَالصَّابِقُونَ الْأَوَّلُونَ مِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ. So we mentioned this last time. Those who were the first and from those who became the believers from the Muhajirin, the people who made hijrah from Makkah to Medina, and the Ansar, the believers in Medina who supported them. So this is the Sahaba, yeah? وَالَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُم. This word, اتَّبَعُوهُم. Those who followed them. So this is tabi'i, yeah? Ittabi'u, those who followed. Who followed the Sahaba? So, وَاتَّبَعُوهُم بِإِحْسَانٍ, which means they followed them completely, yeah? In the best way, in all good. Allah is saying about the Sahaba and the Tabi'een, radiyallahu anhum wa radu an. Allah is pleased with them, they are pleased with Allah. So this is sanctifying, and this is not sanctifying, sorry, sanctioning. This is giving us proof from the Quran that we can look at the Tabi'een as long as they are following the Sahaba. Is it clear? And the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, خير القرون قرني ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم. The best generation is mine, then after that, and then after that, which means the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, and then those who followed the Tabi'een, the Taba'a Tabi'een, the successors of the companions, Ridwanullah Ajmain. So the Tabi'een, as you know, I feel that we went through this. I don't know, maybe I'm mistaken. I have this feeling that we did this already. Khair. Let me just reiterate the Tabi'een and the teachers from the Sahaba. I asked you, I think, to make a chart of some sort. Remember when I gave you some work in the beginning of this? Now it would have been very useful if we had that.
Was it to do with the history of the tafsir?
Yeah. So let me just close. I think bamboo paper causes issues. I think
it's part of reading.
Yeah, but then I asked you to make a where is it gone now? Oh, here it is. So I wanted to see some chart. It would be easier to explain this, easy. This. So where am I? I went there. Okay, go back. Here we are. So in Mecca, Abdullah ibn Abbas, he is the teacher. He's a Sahabi. And from his students, Sa'id ibn Jubair radiallahu anhu, Mujahid ibn Jabr, Ikrima, Tawus and Ata ibn Rabah. These are names of the successors who came after the Sahaba. Yeah, they were students. And then in Medina, you have Ubay ibn Ka'b radiallahu anhu. And he has the students Abu al-Aliya, Muhammad ibn Ka'b al-Quradi, Zayd ibn Aslam. And in Kufa, Abdullah ibn Masud radiallahu anhu. And he has his student Al-Qama ibn Qais, Masruq, Al-Aswad ibn Yazid, and the others, Amir al-Sha'bi, and Al-Hasan al-Basri, and Qatada, and As-Sadusi. So these, you find all of these are the successors or the tabi'in. So when you start studying tafsir, you will see these names frequently, yeah? Especially when you start studying, for example, Tafsir Ibn Kathir and Tafsir of Tabari. You'll see all these names and others. So these people are the people who were the students of the Sahaba. They learnt the deen directly from the Sahaba. And the other statements regarding this in the book, they tell us to the extent to which they learnt this properly. Yeah, it was a very proper, thorough study. It was not just casual. So here you see Qatada, who is a tabi'i. He says, there is not a single verse in the Quran except that I have heard something concerning it. And then Mujahid said, I recited the Quran to Ibn Abbas 3 times. In each recitation, I stopped at every verse, asking him concerning its interpretation. Yeah? So this is Mujahid. You'll hear that name a lot in tafsir. He's learning from Abdullah ibn Abbas, and he went through the whole Quran thrice. With every ayah, he stopped and asked the meaning. SubhanAllah. One honor that is. So regarding the tabi'een, the tafsir of the tabi'een, if we know that, of course, we have the chain of narration again, yeah? That this tabi'i, he is narrating that he learned from this sahabi, the tafsir of this ayah, who then learned it from the Prophet ﷺ as example, yeah? Then, of course, we take that tafsir of the tabi'i without any issue. But if we find there is an ikhtilaf amongst the tabi'een, okay? If we see there is a difference between the tabi'een, then we will resort back to what? We will go back to the Sahaba and the Quran itself to decide the matter rather than take one opinion over the other until we have looked at that. But if the tabi'een, they did not differ regarding the tafsir of something, then we will take it because this is because they took it from the companions, and this is therefore reliable and acceptable. And what we have to appreciate here is that these successors, Tabi'een, they are people who lived for up to 100, 120, 150 years after the Prophet ﷺ's hijrah. So it says here, Qatada died 110 after Hijri, Mujahid 103 after Hijri, which means after the Hijri, the Prophet ﷺ remained for 10 years approximately. So therefore, even a century later, up to a century later, these people were preserving the tafsir chain. You see the chain, yeah, of tafsir. So this is the status of the tabi'in, for us to take from them the tafsir. After the tabi'in, so we've looked at Quran, explaining the Quran, tafsir of Quran bil Quran, through hadith, through the Sahaba, and then through tabi'in. And then after that, we have Arabic language. Okay, the fifth source of tafsir is the Arabic language itself. Because Allah Ta'ala, He mentions in the Quran regarding the Quran itself in many places. If you look at this Surah Yusuf, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا. Indeed, we have revealed it, a Quran which is in Arabic. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ, so you may ponder over it, understand it. So Quran is Arabic. And in the tafsir we are doing, currently we are looking at, here you go. حاميم تنزيل من الرحمن الرحيم كتاب فصلت آياه قرآنا عربيا. In Surah Fussilat ayah 3, it is Arabic. The Quran is Arabic. Yeah? And there are other ayat talking about the Quran being Arabic, in Arabic. Now it is essential in order to understand the Quran, the person understanding it must know the Arabic. Yeah? And it goes without saying really, but it has to be emphasized that the Arabic language needs to be fully in the grasp of the Mufassir. Mufassir will know the Sarf, the Nahw. He will know all of the different styles of Arabic literature or speech, oratory. He will know the idioms, the phrases. He will be very well versed with it, very well versed. So Imam Ash-Shafi'i, I think, rahimahullah. I think we mentioned it. We mentioned last time. I get confused now. He spent 10 or 11 years with a tribe. He went to live with this tribe to be completely immersed in the Arabic language, so that it would become part and parcel of him. He would just naturally understand it. You see that? You don't understand certain things until you live with the people who speak it, and the way they speak it, and why they speak it, and when they say it. And then it becomes second nature to you, doesn't it? To appreciate that language. So the Arabic language must be mastered by the one who's doing tafsir. And this has been emphasized by the scholars immensely. Of course, this is number 5, yeah? So Arabic is the tool to be able to understand the Quran. We have to be careful because sometimes people may think, oh, just to know the Quran, just to know the Arabic itself is enough. No. The Arabic is the medium, the tool through which you must master the Arabic. Then you will be able to appreciate and understand the Quran because it is Arabic. You see? The other thing to mention here is, the linguistic meaning of a word is the beginning of the understanding of the Quran. Because there have been people and still are people, and there will be people who will try to give you the meaning of the Quran just based on the language. And they will not look at Quran, explaining Quran, Hadith explaining Quran, Sahaba explaining Quran, Tabi'een explaining Quran. They'll go directly to language. So this is great danger to do this. Yes? So not to just take it literally. So salah, the word salah has been mentioned in the book, which essentially means dua, literally means dua. So when we say aqimus salat, if you take literal meaning, it means you should make dua to Allah, isn't it? But we know that the shar'i meaning, the istilahi meaning, the technical meaning of as-salat is to pray the prayer as has been commanded and exemplified by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is now the Fajr, Zuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, how many rak'ah, what to pray, how to prepare wudu, how to start the prayer, what to read, when to bow, when to do sujood, when to sit. You see, all of this. So we do not just take the language, it's the important, essential tool, but not to misuse it. And then there is the Arabic poetry. The Arabic poetry, especially the classic Arabic poetry of that time, in which the whole Arabs and their way of thinking has been listed and recorded. Yeah? So Arabic poetry is very important, essential for the person wanting to really understand the tafsir, to know. Especially when it comes to the rare words, obscure words, which are not, even the Arabs are not familiar with. Even the Arabs, they're unfamiliar with it. But the poetry has recorded its meaning, you see. And so this ayah in Surah 16, An-Nahl, ayah 47. أو يأخذهم على تخوف literally, if you look at, let's do this now, yeah? If I look at the root word of this takhawuf, khawf, to fear, to be afraid, yeah? Yeah, to lessen, etc. Now it mentions in the book that Umar radiallahu anhu, he asked about this meaning of this word takhawuf. How do you understand this word? And then they referred to two lines of poetry to explain this means gradually, yeah, step by step. I can't remember. It's in the book. When you read your reading, you will find Umar radiallahu anhu, he asked, I think, I can't remember exactly. And then we find this this occasion. Have a look and tell us.
An old man from the tribe of Hudayl.
Hudayl, okay. So old man from the tribe of Hudayl. He explained this word, takhawuf. And then there's a famous incident of Nafi ibn Azraq, which was the leader of the Khawarij. Yeah, Nafi ibn Azraq. He came to try and prove that Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, he doesn't know anything about Quran and Arabic. He doesn't know anything. Eh? He wanted to show that he is nothing. So he came and he started to ask him, what does this mean? What does this mean? And where do you have your source of the Arabic poetry and language? So it mentions that Abdullah ibn Abbas, he went through him, he asked about 189 ayat, 189 verses. And for each verse, Abdullah ibn Abbas, he gave the meaning, and he read a line of classic poetry to explain its meaning. Yes, you see? So it was therefore preserved in this manner to be able to understand its meaning with it being now sure that yes, this word, we didn't know what it exactly meant, but this has clarified now for us this word that was not clear to us through the Arabic poetry. The other thing is there's some discussion in the book about poetry itself. What does Quran say about poetry?
Quran is not poetry.
Quran is not poetry. Anything else?
Poets.
There's a whole surah called Ash-Shu'ara, isn't it? Poets.
Poets are followed by lost people. And they roam.
Read the ayah. وَالشُّعَرَاءُ هُمُ
يتبعهم الغاوون لم تر أنهم في كل واد يهيمون وأنهم يقولون ما لا يفعلون. إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات.
Very good. So this ayah is very key for us to look at in Surah Shu'ara regarding our attitude towards poetry from the Quranic perspective. Have I missed it?
No, here's it.
Oh, here it is. There we go. وَالشُّعَرَاءُ, the poets in general, yeah? يَتَّبِعُهُمُ الْغَاوُونَ, people who follow them, they are not the people who are guided rightly. Why? Because do you not see that these poets, they roam around and they say whatever comes through their mind and whatever they observe without any authenticity to what they're saying. And upon that, and on top of that, whatever they say, they don't actually act upon. Yeah, this is a general response or the attitude towards poetry. Yeah? But there's an exception to this. There's an exception to this, except those who believe and do good deeds and remember Allah immensely. So they will not write poetry which goes against Allah and His Messenger, or that contradicts the deen. But in fact, they would use this to support the deen, like Hassan ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu. So our attitude towards poetry is, it is not intrinsically wrong, but we have to be careful, because in general poetry is not as guidance. But then you find poetry is a very strong influencer and a revival, tool of revival, because of its construction and structure and effect on the person. You know, if you read the same prose, you know prose, what is prose? P-R-O-S-E. What is prose?
Like section.
Huh? Is what?
Section.
What does it mean?
Section of poetry.
No.
The way it's written.
Yes. Poetry is poetic. Prose is you writing just simple English. Yeah. So poetry has a different impact to you just reading a line or two of writing, isn't it? You understand what I'm saying? If you read the same thing in poetry, it has a different impact on you. Yeah? It may make you feel very happy, or it may make you feel very imaginative, creative. You may say, wow, that's such an amazing manner of suggesting that idea to me. Yeah. So poetry has a certain impact on us. The other thing is that Quran is not poetry. وَمَا هُوَ. This is not the saying of a poet. وَمَا يَنْبَغِي لَهُ. And this is not. This does not suit you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You are not poet at all, and this Quran is not poetry.
Could you then say, or would you say then things like nowadays about nasheeds and stuff, would that have like a similar kind of thing nowadays, in terms of, you say, okay, poetry has an effect on people, but then I guess you have nasheeds as well. Are they kind of in the same kind of bracket?
You could say they are an aspect and a form of poetry, most of them. Yeah, they would have impact. Even in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they would recite poetry, or they would read what we call nasheed. For example, when they were digging the Khandaq, or when the Prophet was coming to Medina, Ta'ala al-Badru alayna. Yeah? So you see there's rhyme and rhythm there. So yeah. Allahu Alam. So we have to look at the classic Arabic, because our intention is to understand the context and the usage and understanding of those words that are not clear to us. You see this? Even poetry is now a tool. You get it? To give us a clearer context. And when you look at all of this, you see that Allah Ta'ala, He has as He says, He has provided the protection of the understanding of the Quran through these. This is the miracle. And until today, the Arabic Fusha is there, absolutely. That language, pure language. That whoever learns it can speak to anybody else who has learned it. Is it clear? Fusha. In addition to that, it is important to have an appreciation for understanding the Quran of the Arab customs of the time. Yes, Arab customs. Because if we are not aware of the customs and the practices of the Arabs, then we may misunderstand the ayat. So we give the example here of Surah Al-Baqarah 189, where it says, وَلَيْسَ الْبِرُّ بِأَن تَأْتُوا الْبُيُوتَ مِنْ ظُهُورِهَا. It is not righteous. I'm reading from the third line here. And it is not righteous to enter homes from the back, but righteousness is in one who fears Allah and enters their houses from their doors. So how do we understand this? So we're just waiting for him to inshallah come back. So think about this ayah. You have a good time to think about it now. Okay, so this verse, what does it mean? Do not enter the home from the back but the front.
When they used to come back from Hajj, or
So
then
explain.
they would have a custom of coming through the back of the house because they thought, I can't remember exactly.
Okay.
They thought it was more righteous.
Okay, what do you think?
I mean, I'm not too sure about the custom, but I mean, I'm not sure if you like look at it literally or.
Good. So this is a good example, yeah. So this custom was that once they had worn the ihram or whatever they had left for Hajj. So they would now, if they, for example, they have to come back home. They left something, forgot something, or for whatever reason, they would now think that, oh, it is superstitious. This is. It is now wrong to enter from the back, from front door. So we will go from the back door of the house. This was their custom. So this custom, Allah Ta'ala, He is correcting. So if we are not aware of that, then we would not know how to understand this, isn't it? And then there's the other ayah of Surah An-Nisa, ayah number 3, where it says, وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تُقْسِطُوا فِي الْيَتَامَى فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ مَثْنَى وَثُلَاثَ وَرُبَاعَ. And if you fear that you will not deal justly with the orphan girls, then marry those that please you of other women, 2, 3, or 4. So this is this was asked. The question was asked to Aisha radiallahu anha about this. What does this mean? And she said that this is referring to the guardians who are looking after the orphan girls, and if they take a liking to them, yes, they take a liking to them. If they will take them in their nikah unjustly, means they will not give them their mahr. Is it clear? Yeah. So this was the custom that was at the moment, or was needed to be understood. So this had been explained. So the other Arab, there are many things. Once you start thinking about the customs of the Arabs, they're trying to think of anything else. Can you think of anything?
What does it mean when it says if you fear that you will not? As in, is this like saying
you will not do justice, meaning you won't give them the mahr that you should give them. This is what the ayah, that's what Aisha Radhiyallahu anha is explaining. That you will not be just with them because you won't give them the mahr. Khair, anyway. So there is an importance to appreciate the customs of the Arabs. And no wonder Imam Shafi'i spent that many years to understand the Arab culture and customs and the language and the nuances of everything properly. So this is regarding the understanding of the tafsir through Arabic language and Arabic and poetry and Arab custom. So the language is important and appreciation is very important, and to master it, especially for the mufassir. The person who writes a tafsir must be master of Arabic and should know usul, of course, Quran, usul al-hadith, usul al-fiqh, should have a very deep understanding of Quran, deep understanding of seerah, all of the ulum, and then the person can start to think. It's not easy. Alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala, He has given speciality to people who want to specialize in this tafsir. But it is not a joke. And this is part of what is this part of? Allah Ta'ala protecting the Quran, you see, and its meaning. For it to be thorough, and for it to be accurate, and for it to be sealed. Okay? So therefore, we should appreciate that, alhamdulillah. It also mentions in the book and other places I was reading regarding so there's a balance to be kept. Sometimes there's one extreme that says don't even try to understand the Quran on your own at all, unless you have an alim with you. The other extreme is just read the Quran and whatever you understand from it. No, we have to look at the balance. The balance is read the Quran. If you don't know the Arabic, then read a reliable translation of the meaning of the Quran. But you should know that this is the beginning footsteps towards trying to understand the meaning of the Quran and its tafsir. And when you are for proper understanding, you would consult people of knowledge, etc. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't even try to understand it at all, because this is a very nice excuse why majority of Muslims don't even think about understanding the Quran. Yeah, and this does a lot of damage. So this is 5. Yeah, the 6th one is mentioned in the other book by Taqi Usmani. He says Aql Salim. Aql Salim is another, I would call it, tool to understand. In fact, to understand anything, isn't it? Aql Salim. So 5 we said Arabic and the poetry and the custom. Yeah. 6th is Aql, which is Salim. What is Aql Salim? Sound intellect. What is sound intellect?
Common sense.
Common sense.
Not infiltrated by anything else.
What do you mean by infiltrated?
And common sense that is not derived from what we think of as common sense.
That's contradiction. It's philosophical. Keep trying.
As in this common sense which is supported by the 6 Allah, the 5.
MashaAllah, that's good. That's one good approach. What else do you think? Hamza, what do you think? What is Aql Salim? What does Salim mean? Salim?
Protect.
Salim. Salim. What does it mean, Salim? What happened, man?
There's one of protected or peaceful.
Protected, peaceful, whole, complete, not infiltrated. Salim. Aql Salim is your rationale and intellect, which is on the lines of Hanifiya, Fitra. Your natural ability instinctively based on the Fitra of Allah, which has not been infiltrated by any of the has not been interfered with and has not been infected by anything, polluted by anything. Aql Salim. So your aql is salim if you keep, you guide your aql with guidance of Allah. Okay. So your ideology is what Allah tells you, this is the right ideology. This is wrong. So aql salim is a tool that is very important.
How would you like judge that? Because it's difficult. If
So-
somebody has been
Very good. So how you will judge that, Abdullah?
by the previous writings.
MashaAllah, very good. He has copper answer for everything. Yeah, you're right. You will judge whether my thinking is salim or not is by saying, what does Allah say about what I'm thinking? What does Muhammad say about what I think? What did the Sahaba say about what I think? What did Tabi'een say about what I think? What did the Imam A'imma, they give ijma' upon regarding what I'm saying? You see? So therefore we have to understand one thing here, very important. For our minds need guidance. Our intellect needs to be guided so that it can flourish and it can reach its full potential healthily and not be corrupted. So for this, we have to do the tazkiyah of the ideological tazkiyah, which is the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam. So the more the person is in touch with Allah's message and messenger and learns and lives according to that, not just knows, but so many things you understand through doing regularly, yeah? You fully appreciate them. There are different learners. There is a different types of learning styles, they call it. One is auditory. Some people are better at listening. Some people are visual learners. They need to see some pictures or graphs. Then there are kinesthetic learners. Kinesthetic. What is kinesthetic? They have to touch, feel, experience, process the whole thing. Then they appreciate the thing. Then, yeah. So therefore, to keep our aql and qalb salim, in Quran mentioned by Ibrahim Islam. This was why Allah Ta'ala sent the Quran and the Prophet ﷺ. This is the whole objective of keeping it complete, healthy, intact, and not to be infiltrated or for it to be damaged or infected. So Al-Quran is ash-shifa'u lima fi sudur. It will cure all of these infiltrations of these viruses. It's antivirus. You understand? Any new ideology comes, you have to sift it through the firewall of Quran and Hadith. And it will tell you what is right and wrong. So the aql is the tool. But the tool needs to be maintained, isn't it? Otherwise, what happens to the tool? It can become rusty. So it needs to be appreciated that. And the next one is there anything to add to that? You happy with that? The other is tafsir bil-rai. Tafsir bil-rai. Tafsir bil-rai. This is a tafsir by opinion. Opinion. Rai is opinion. Tafsir of the people about their opinion about the Quran or the ayah, an ayah. So there is a quotation in both books of Imam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah about this. So he has categorized the Tafsir bil-Rai into two types. One is Tafsir bil-Rai Mahmud. Mahmud, which is praiseworthy. Mahmud means the thing which is praiseworthy. And the other is Madhmum. Madhmum is, it is blameworthy. Tafsir bil-Rai Mahmud, Tafsir bil-Rai Madhmum. So he says that this essentially is talking about what? What do you think this is talking about? What do you mean? What do you understand by this? Are you sure this is closed? I feel like something's open. It feels like something's open. Hamza, what do you think this Rai is? Opinion?
Is this like opinions of like scholars, people who, not just of anyone, but just as in you have your different scholars have the different opinions,
Okay, good.
and I guess when you're deciding when somebody deciding whether one is correct or incorrect or which one is better than the other.
Fine. Okay. To have an opinion about something. Yeah, good. What do you think, Abdullah?
But maybe when it's when it's about a particular situation, like today, and then a scholar gives his opinion and says that this is because of this, we can learn this from this part of the Quran.
Good. So what is another word for that in the Quran? What you have, the concept that you have just explained, a term for that. Hmm? Okay, ijtihad. Anything else? You know it. When I say it, you will say, oh, of course. What? Think about what you said. Think about what he said. What is he saying actually? Say it again. Elaborate.
The opinions of scholars that are given in regards to particular situations today, where they give their.
So what do they have to do to come to that decision or that opinion? What are they doing? Think of the steps they're taking.
Have to look at the Quran and how it addresses a particular situation that may be the same or similar to this situation.
Good.
And the principles it uses there.
Very good.
To see if they apply here.
So is that a very simple, straightforward process, you think?
No.
No. So what are they doing? What's that called?
Interrogation.
Good.
Analysis.
Good. What else?
Deduction.
Good. What's all that called in Quran? One term. Tadabbur. Tadabbur. Yeah, I said you know it when I say it. Good. So it's better that you come with all these ideas and then we give the term. Sometimes rather than give the term and then you come with the ideas. It helps. So this really seems like, Wallahu alam, it seems like this Tafsir bil-Rai is referring to Tadabbur. That the scholar comes to a conclusion, yes, and one aspect of it, one aspect is a situation that occurs in your time and place which has probably not occurred before in that form. So the Mufassir will give his opinion, Rai, but it is based on Quran, understanding Quran through Quran and Hadith and Sahaba and Tabi'i and Arabic and poetry and custom and Aql Salim, etc., etc., everything, and knowing the Deen and its fundamentals, principles, etc. And then a person may give his opinion to say, it seems like this, based on all of this, but he bases it on tafsir. Does not base it on his own, just his thinking, independent of the tafsir. Is it clear? So this is Tafsir Mahmud. This is praiseworthy, because he is making an effort to really understand the Quran. Yes? And the more you try to understand it, more Allah Ta'ala will give you understanding of it. And Allah Ta'ala, He has encouraged the tadabbur of Quran, tadabbur, to think deeply about the Quran. But after those steps have been taken first. And the tafsir bil Rai madmoom is the one that people, they give their opinion without doing any of that. Okay? So they just don't look at anything else. They say, I think this means this. I think it means that. On no what basis? Well, I just think that I think so. I feel it's like that. This is madmoom, yeah, blameworthy. In fact, this is a sinful, great, huge sin, and it can be, the sin could be limited to the person, but usually it is what we call muta'addi. It is perpetuated, the misguidance is perpetuated to people who start following that tafsir. You understand? So therefore, tafsir bil Rai is tadabbur of Quran, which we are encouraged to do, but within the framework and the parameters of what we have looked at up to number 6, and always saying Wallahu A'lam, meaning this seems like this, but I could be wrong, I could be completely wrong, because I have not any other basis to conclude what I'm concluding other than I think it is, but because it seems like this to me. Yes? And the madmoom is, one aspect of madmoom is that you stick to what you're saying. You're saying, no, this is it. And you have no other reference for it. You just say, no, this is it. So that's dangerous. So if I just read for you some statements of, I think it's in this book. Ibrahim, close this door and the kitchen door, please. Too much noise coming here. Is it in the Arabic book, in the English book? Is it in there? Tafsir bil Rai? He has given Arabic, in Arabic statements of Imam Ibn Taymiyyah.
Based on personal opinion.
Have they given quoted Imam Ibn Taymiyyah in Arabic? I want to read it to you, these terms. You have a look at that book carefully. Huh? If it's not here, then it must be there. But this is written in Ibn Taymiyyah's Muqaddamah. Anyway, I wrote one of the quotes there. It says that وأما تفسير القرآن بمجرد رأي فحرام. So as far as the tafsir of the Quran, which is based solely and only on opinion, this is haram. It's not in there. No? Then it must be there. Anyway, not to worry. Okay. So, where are we now? Where did we reach? What time is it? We done 1 hour? We'll stop there, inshallah. And now we will stop, and next time, inshallah, we'll continue. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك جزاكم الله خير صلى الله على نبينا محمد